Alright, welcome to episode 120. Unfortunately, that's not really anything that's special I'm going to do with today's episode. I was just looking at ideology before this, just making sure because I've made a plan now of everything I'm going to do. I kind of already had a plan, but I know I'm going to do for every episode. So I was looking and making sure I got all the other countries that are going to convert to radical ideologies down, but we're all good. Here's the map from last time, in case you were wondering. Hasn't changed since last time. However, I did change the religion layer off screen because it's kind of annoying to do it on screen. It takes forever. I just don't really want to, but there you go. You can see it's changed quite a lot. Yeah, it looks pretty cool, ish. Yeah, lots of white bits. Australia looks horrible. Anyway, in today's episode, we're going to do more war stuff, like we do most episodes. In the last episode, we saw conflicts all around the world, like in... Let me just try and guess. I'm trying to also get my plan up. We saw a war happen over in South America with the Buenos Aires country defeated. We saw the green Quebecan country defeated. Cyprus got invaded. Libya. Oh yeah, Carthage collapsed and everyone had a horrible time. And actually, we can start first off with the Carthaginian kind of what's the word? Secondary effects thing. Because over here in this brown country that looks fairly abominable. I don't know. It doesn't really look that great. It's a very wealthy country with 4 major cities. It's very sparsely populated, really. And I don't know why you'd want to live there. It's probably one of the fastest, maybe not fastest emptying countries. Ideologically, maybe. It's an autocracy. I could understand why, because I don't know why you'd want to be there. But it's going to enter a full collapse, and it's going to lead to lots of bad things, like it being partitioned between a few countries, I think, should be. Alright, so here are the lines of partition. Up here in the north, we see this, actually, it's got 2 major cities, but I don't really think they're very major cities. So both of those go to the Ghanaian country, this southern area goes to Nigeria, and the pig, whatever area of the world this is, I can check. Chad, apparently in Lake Chad, is where your capital is. Just a Sahel country. They take over the capital region, including, of course, the capital. I don't know what that sentence was. Including the capital city, and make that weird arm bit a bit longer. So Ghana has actually expanded today without invading someone, which is pretty impressive for this incredibly militaristic country. But we have the nation of what I titled Abuja, like the capital of Nigeria. I don't think it's quite there, but close enough. Anyway, so they're gone, and Ghana is a bit stronger, I guess. Anyway, where do we go now? I think on my list it says that I should go to Romania. The Romanians are people, though the Polish claim to be Polish people, because historically they've been they're kind of similar. They never joined the Holy Polish Empire. They never joined any sort of Polish state, and this country has since its creation. In episode 13, never ceased to exist, except for today, as Polish troops invade up here in the north and move towards the capital city. In World Wars, had a fairly good success rate. World War One, World War Two, World War Three is where things kind of went badly because they were like, oh, don't worry. And then they joined the Germans, and then they went badly because they got fully occupied by the Russians and the Arabic Union. And they switched sides to the Arabic Union, and it was like, oh, we're all on your side, it's all good, don't worry. But then it wasn't because they still lost some stuff, but they gained other bits of land, so, they kind of won and lost there. But here, they're just going to lose. World War IV, they also just lost. They're fighting Poland and Bulgaria at the same time, and Ukraine could not save them. And here, Ukraine definitely won't save them, as they are fully annexed by the nation of Poland, who becomes even cooler looking. This also, however, adds in some Roman people into their country, or religiously Roman people, which they don't love, so they might get eliminated. But at the moment, they're probably fairly safe, maybe. Definitely not. Yeah, good for you, Poland. Or they just get taken over to Italy, because, the Italians are kind of a refuge for Roman faith people. Anyway, we can now head over to the west, and this is over to Mexico, because both of these two countries right over here are, interestingly enough, ideologically communist countries, and they're surrounded by a lot of different threats. So, in the name of making things for communist and Mexican countries even better, they are going to unite. I need to go find a good color. It is a bit stereotypical to make them green. Mexico is always green in any map of Mexico you ever see. However, that's what happens today. The capital will stay down here in the center, as it's probably the largest city in the entire Mexican region. Mexican cities in real life are located mostly in the center. because the mountains are better and the coast is not very good. I don't remember why, but it isn't. So there you go. And here's a cool new communist Mexican country. So it's the Unitary Federation of Communist Mexican States, and yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting for the future. But it's also going to be quite influential because a certain other nation to the north, which is the purple Mexican country, also converts over to become communist. So now it's still got two communist Mexicos, but one's further north. I don't know. This could have implications for the future, but I wouldn't really know that much. So we'll see. Anyway, it's a bit scary for the Vancouver country, who is fascist and don't really like communists. And also, I guess New England's maybe a bit worried, but maybe not. We can now also look at my list again because I forgot what I need to do next. We can head over to Southern Arabia. Another war is happening over here. This country, I think, in Yemen, there's like a secessionist movement over here called Southern Arabia, isn't it? I hope. But today, the nation of Hijaz will be invading into the Southern Arabian area to bring about a greater Hijaz empire. Last episode, they invaded whatever this area of the world is called, Aden, I guess. And today they're going to continue on to like 3 years ago, probably less than that. They're like the last event. But their forces move into the south and easily take this city. There's a few random ones in the desert, but they don't really care about that. They just send some forces in to fortify this bit. Probably just reservists. As a brunt of the forces are pushed towards the capital city, being one of the only coastal settlements of the country, and they manage to take it with ease, pushing towards the Omani border, until, surprisingly, to basically everyone on the international stage, Omani forces actually push out and take cities. These guys have been very silent since they got made into a very small Oman. Historically, they've been quite big, like recent history. Before that, they just didn't really do a whole lot. But they've really been fighting for Mesopotamian religion across history, being theocratic across almost all of their history, except when they got invaded by the Mesopotamians, in which there was a democratic coup, which took down the government and made them democratic for a little bit. But yep, Hijaz is their natural enemy because Hijaz is like a different strain of Mesopotamian faith, and therefore not really like the Omani country. So they're going to invade, stop Hijaz taking more land. Alright, so the partition will end up looking something like this, with Oman taking all this territory, and down here in the south we see, wait a minute, we see Hijaz take over this territory, including the capital city. I drew it wrong. But there you go, the partition looks pretty nice, and Oman has a weird wavy border over here, but this looks pretty cool, and Hijaz is even stronger. Speaking of stronger, we can go to power rankings. These segues are just getting better and better. It's now 2065, and all the power rankings are the same, except for the fact that Morocco is in number 4 because they're huge. I mean, look at them. Other than that, everything else is identical, so there you go. Hijaz at this point might be stronger than New England. I'm not really sure. They're pretty close, to be fair. So, yeah. Anyway, we can now head over to Colombia, because Colombia today will be invaded by a country. Wait, do we want to do Colombia? I mean, I've said it now, so we might as well invade Colombia. There was a certain other target I was thinking about, but they can survive for another day. As Brazilian forces move across the border here into Colombia, and very quickly move up this coastal area, bombarding it, and moving right in towards the capital city, which they take with rapid speed. The Colombians generally think they get invaded by Brazil, because, Brazil's kind of far away from Colombia, their core territory is. But this causes mass shock in the Colombian state, and anarchy consumes it, mostly up here in the north, where everyone's very, very afraid. People start to flee over here to the western area, where lots of cities are, and they set up a fairly good defensive against Brazilian forces that kind of enables them to survive a bit longer, as this line emerges for a few months, but, it doesn't last, of course. And Brazilian forces eventually make a really good strategic decision, and they break through the line. I'm not going to tell you what that is. It's just a good strategic decision. I couldn't tell you. And they push through the line, moving over here to the western coast, and finally Brazil has connected with the Pacific Ocean, which is kind of scary, but oh well. At this point, they've all retreated past the Darien Gap over here into modern-day southern Panama, and there's a very slow march through the extremely rainforesty region of southern Panama until they capture the major city and move up the rest of the territory. It's quite a strategic territory, not only to get Brazil on the Pacific Ocean, which is, it's pretty cool, but also they have more influence over the Panama Canal, which they are pretty close to at this point, so that could be scary into the future. Brazil looks a bit weird now, but it's probably fine. They just need a bit of your country, and they look a bit nicer. You'll find Ecuador, don't worry. Anyway, moving on over here to Southern Africa, we can head over to the South African country, another bluish coloured one, and today, of course, they'll be expanding their own nation up here into Namibia. South African forces move into this territory around the city, which kind of tells the Namibians what's going on. So they're kind of like, you know what? How about we try and do our own thing? And they push their forces right over into here, which shouldn't have worked that much, but it did. The South Africans, they've been kind of used to people not fighting back, apart from the Eastern South Africans. But they have a pretty brutal battle over here in this region, which ends up in a South African victory, and they manage to move on up north into Namibia. However, many of their resources and supply lines have been destroyed by the Namibian military, so it's kind of, well done, dude. That's pretty cool. They do manage to take the capital city, however. The rest of the Central Territory isn't really useful for anything except for resources, so South African forces make a very kind of slow march up northwards. The infrastructure here isn't great. I believe the country is ideological. Oh no, they're an autocracy. I thought they were democratic. Never mind. And after all the coastal cities fall, the rest of the country does as well. Nobody really cares, I suppose. If you're autocratic, they're like, oh well, I guess that's them gone. And South Africa looks pretty cool. They're kind of reminiscent of the past too, as their borders look pretty similar to the old British colony, but it's fine. I wouldn't bring back the colonies in Africa. It's all good. Moving up very slightly north, however, we can head over to the nation of Angola. And by the way, I mean the northern Angolan country, who is currently a democratic country. They're not democratic anymore. Angola is the next country to switch over to radical ideology, being quite afraid of the South Africans to their south, who've now conquered even more countries in its territory, and for that reason, they've switched over to fascist ideology to kind of scare them away, and maybe get some safety, because, the communists aren't going to invade a fascist country, at least not yet, hopefully. But yeah, they're not going to just not do anything. They're going to intimidate these guys even more. Angola has a pretty good military for their region, and they're going to move down into this other autocratic country, the southern Angolan country, I suppose. This country is very weak and very poor, and their forces do a pretty good job at moving across the coastal area. They put their forces on high alert in the south, but not in the north, which is where their capital is. Even some of the National Guard defending the president in the capital city, not president because they're dictator, even got moved down to the south, so it was incredibly undefended, like 2% of their military, which is a very small military defending the capital city. Actually, that might be average for a National Guard. I don't really know. So once things have to go this badly, the nation will surrender, and everyone's kind of like, whoa, Angola, that was pretty good, as they fully annex this country, and it's like the only strong pink country with it. Oh wait, you're kind of strong. But apart from those guys, who else has been pink and strong? I don't know. Good for you, Angola. But that's going to do it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. Pretty cool, fun one. I realized there's a lot of green on this map. It is an incredibly green map, and I should try and change that. Good thing I didn't make another green country today, right, Mexico? But yeah, thanks for watching. Have a nice rest of your day. Goodbye.